What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Black Belt Barber podcast, the first and only podcast about entrepreneurship for barbers and professionals of our beauty industry. I'm Tico. I'm your host today. And before we follow me on Instagram, Tic Invictus. And today I have here Bebe Carlos
Hey,
Negron. Welcome here, brother.
thank you for inviting me.
You drove like an hour to be here today, right?
Yeah, bro.
Bebe, tell me who's Bebe? Who's talking to us here? Who's chatting here today? Tell me about your story, where you're coming from, what are your backgrounds?
I'm originally from Puerto Rico. I came from Puerto Rico like 4 years ago to Miami after the hurricane and all that thing that happened in Puerto Rico, and I've been cutting hair for like 18 years already.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Sometimes I feel like I haven't been doing it much, but it's been a long time. Um, yeah, I've been in the industry for like 18 years, cutting here and there, and recently I've been doing a lot of color. I've been like in different stages. I was doing designs when designs were popular. Then when the styling and the comb overs came, I was doing that. I always been one of those. I always want to be that barber in the shop that does something that nobody else does, like it's trendy or like some. I see something popping in Instagram and I want to do it first because when they start asking for it, I'll be the one that knows how to do it, and then then I get that client instead of giving it away. So that always been me. So that's why I've been like changing, and now I'm with the color because color was one of those things that made me like different from like other barbers. When I was in Miami, I was trying to like put my name out there. I started going to shows and stuff. Before that, I would travel to Colombia, Panama, Mexico, and when I got to Miami, I started going to shows, and like nobody knew who I was, and it was like, okay, I'm over here with like El Bori and Papi Blends and all these people, and they're like taking pictures and talking to them, and I'm over here like, hey, I'm over here too, but I wanted to do something that neither Papi Blends was doing or Bori or all the other barbers that were like that I knew were doing, like El Bori cuts a lot of celebrities. I didn't want to get into that because then I would have to like not compete with them, but it was gonna make it hard to do like to create a name where like, oh, you say it Body, he cuts celebrities, like that's like his thing. So I wanted to find something that would like, be like, oh, bebe, automatically you think like that guy does something. So to me, it was color. I decided to cut my hair, do color on my hair. So even if they didn't know my name, they were like, "Oh, you see that guy with color hair? That guy does color," and it kind of like ties in together.
But
So,
let's go from the start. So you're from Puerto Rico, right?
Yes,
You were born there, you raised there.
I was born in New York and went to Puerto Rico like around 3, raised there to like 13, 14, then went back to New Jersey, and I was did all my high school in New Jersey, then went back to Puerto Rico and
Do you
spent
have
there for like 12 years.
brothers? Do you have
Yeah,
sisters?
I have. It's 4 of us. It's 2 brothers and 1 sister.
they're back there?
They're in New
Puerto Rico?
Jersey.
Oh, they're in New Jersey.
Yeah, they're in New
Okay.
Jersey. All my family members from my mother's side, they're in New Jersey, and my family member from my father's side, they're in Puerto Rico.
You married, right?
Yes.
How many kids?
I have 2 kids, a daughter and a son.
Daughter and a son. I think I would love to have like
A
a
couple.
boy, yeah,
Yeah.
a couple.
Yeah.
That was my dream.
That's a gift that you have a boy
Yeah.
and a girl.
Like, we had my daughter first at the beginning. You know how they do the whole thing, like, oh, like, your belly is like this shape, so it would be a boy. Then when you get like kind of get into that, okay, it's gonna be a boy, so you start preparing your mind. So like, oh, it's gonna be a boy. I'm gonna dress him like me and this and that. Then you find out it's gonna be a girl, so you gotta like readjust and be like, okay, now, well, daddy's girl, we working fine. And then so when we had the daughter, my wife didn't want no more kids, and she's like, no, that's it. Like, I don't want no more. This is like crazy. And then when my daughter was about to turn 5, she was already like playing with kids and stuff, and she would stay crying because it's like she didn't have nobody to play with, and she'll play with her cousins and stuff like that. And I was like, yo, like we need another one because she doesn't have nobody to play with. And she was like, no, let's see what happens. This and that. And then we decided we wasn't looking for it, but we decided not to like avoid it, because it was like one of those things like whenever God decide, but we still was avoiding it. I was like, yo, like if we kept like protecting ourselves for not having kids, it's not gonna happen. So when we decided not to do that, that's when we got the boy. It wasn't something that we planned, but we did plan to have 2 kids, and that's it, no more.
How old are they now?
6 and 11.
6 and 11.
They're like 5 years exactly apart.
Wow, I think 5 years a good wage.
Yeah.
Age to you have time and space to think and work your way out, meaning that making more money, creating a structure to have another kid.
We always talked about it like, when we have the second one, it would be perfect to have it at 5, because at 5 the first one would be like going to kindergarten.
Yes.
And then while he's in school, she'll be at home with the baby. So we have like that time. So
that was
kinda
a
worked
good
out.
strategy.
That kind of worked out. But
Cool.
You were telling me earlier, you have a wife. How long you guys together?
we've been together 17 years. We're married like 15.
Wow, 15 years.
Yeah.
You're
Married.
both from Puerto Rico.
Yes.
You met there when you were a teenager? How it
Yeah.
happened?
I went to Puerto Rico, and she's actually like my best friend's sister. So it was like,
It's an easy way to start.
yeah, we had a deal there because I used to hang out with him a lot, and then I had like this girlfriend or whatever, and then one day I got this random call, like somebody calls me. It's like, oh, who's this? And I'm like, oh, it's Carlos. He's like, oh, I'm like, who's calling? She's like, oh, it's a secret admirer. I'm like, who's that? And she's like, oh, what you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm waiting for my girlfriend to call. And she's like, oh, you have a girlfriend? Oh, that's so bad or whatever. So she hanged up, and I'm like, yo, that sounds familiar. But it was actually her. Like they did like a bet with her brother. She started asking him like, oh, who's that? This and that. And he gave her my number, and she dared him to he dared her to call me, and she called me and all of that. But I had a girlfriend at the time.
My wife never chased me.
No.
No, I had to chase her.
Oh, that,
Yeah. He had to chase me for a while.
for a while.
Yeah. For
She
a
was
couple
saying no,
weeks,
no,
months.
no, no all the time.
To me, it was the other way around. So when I actually was single, then we started like dating and stuff, and then he actually started dating my cousin. So it was one of those things like, you can't say nothing because you're dating my cousin, I'm dating your sister. So it's like kind of like keep it on the family type of
That
thing.
in the family.
And then you guys were very young, right? When you started
Yeah.
dating?
Yeah, she was 18 and I was like 5 years older, so like 20 something.
But you were still in Puerto Rico at the
Yeah.
time.
Puerto Rico.
And how did you guys move to Florida?
We came to Florida after the hurricane because the
Okay.
Hurricane Maria like kind of like messed everything up in the island, and it was kind of tough. And my kid at the time was a year and a half old, and my
Oh,
daughter was
too young.
like 6 and something. So they were like super young, and we were like 2 months without like water, like, electricity, nothing. So at the time, I thought about it, and I always wanted to go back to the States because we actually got married and we left. Because it's a funny thing. I wasn't supposed to get married. I wasn't going to get married. Like, I was going to get married in December, and like 3 months before, I was without a job. I worked in construction before, like, cutting hair or anything. I always cut hair since I was, like, in high school. But I didn't, like, professionally cut hair. So I liked that as a hobby. It was something that I liked doing. So I charged like $5 here and there to cut somebody. I didn't care. So I was getting paid somewhere else. But when I lost my job, I sat down my wife and her mother. I'm like, yo, like, I can't get married. She's like, what you mean? You're like 3 months away from the wedding. You can't call the wedding out like that. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? If we're going to get married, I don't have a job. I mean, I have a house, but how am I going to like, if I'm going to take her out of this house to give her less than what she has here, it makes no point for
No
us. Like,
sense.
she wasn't pregnant or anything. We wasn't like, we would just, she was like one of those girls that are like always home and stuff. So it's like it was more like we want to get married so like that we could go out and not worry about like going home at 10:30 because your mom has to go to bed type of thing. It wasn't like so I'm like we're gonna get married just for that, and you're gonna be over here like not having everything that you have here. It defeats the purpose of getting married right now. We could
Yes.
just wait. And then my mother-in-law, she was like, "No, well, why don't you guys just go to New Jersey because your mom is over there, and then you guys just try it out." And we got married in December. February, went to New Jersey. We lasted like 8 months and went back to Puerto Rico.
Came back. Oh, straight to Puerto Rico. The construction time when you were working on construction, you lost your job.
That was that
That was where
in Puerto Rico.
But one good thing you took out of the construction because I saw you building your studio
Yeah,
and you did the whole construction by yourself.
yeah. I learned a lot when my grandfather he always worked in construction. So ever since like he raised me since I was like 3 to like 7 or 8. So I always see him like building stuff, houses and stuff like that. And he was one of those like grandfathers. Is like if he's up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you have to be up. Like you have to find something to do, like clean the yard, do something. But you can't be sleeping while he's working. So we always had to like either help him out or find something to do, or he'll put us to do something. So I was always familiar with the construction thing. So that's why when I didn't have a job, I did that for a while, for like 3 years, and then I was cutting hair here and there. But I was like, if I needed money, I would go back to construction and work somewhere and build something. And when I came over here, when I started building my studio, I was like, wait a minute, like, I mean, I don't know nobody that does construction here in Miami, and I bet it's like super expensive. So like, I'd rather do the work myself and just pay for like all the materials and all that stuff, and I could save money instead of just paying somebody else that I don't know if it's gonna do a good job.
Everything now, all the materials and labor is very expensive to hire someone.
Yeah.
But the question is, do you work in Puerto Rico as a barber professionally at a
Yes.
shop?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
After we got married, we went to New Jersey. I worked in a barber shop because I was gonna get like a normal job, and my mom was like, "Don't you cut hair?" I was like, "Yeah, but I haven't gone to school. I don't have a license. I don't like." To me, if I would have known, like, if I would have known I could have worked in a shop without a license in Puerto Rico, I would have been in construction. I probably would have been in the shop. But to me, I always seen the barber industry as like a real profession. So I was like, nah, for me to work in a barber shop, I have to go to school, get a license, and then go to the shop. So to me, it was never an option because I never went to school. And then once you've been doing it for so long, it's like, why would I want to go to school to learn the stuff that I already do every day? So I was like, I don't want to go to school, so I won't be like a professional barber. I just cut at my house or go here and there, make some extra money just because I liked it. But if I would have known, I could have started. I mean, I have my license now and everything, but at the beginning, I was like, I knew a bunch of barbers. I didn't even know you could do that, but I knew a bunch of barbers after that they've been cutting hair for like 10 years and never went to school. And I was like, oh, like,
I don't know how they do, but there was, I noticed there were many, because I travel a little, and some states I noticed there's a lot of barber without license. But does Puerto Rico require license to work?
yeah, Puerto Rico requires it. The thing with Puerto Rico, I don't know now, but back then they wasn't that strict with the, like you won't have you won't have an inspector showing up to your shop like random and like check the papers. So it kind of like serves so people could like work without a license because nobody would come show up, and the owner will have a license and he'll put up the shop and everything, and he'll be on the books and they'll be fine, but they will never check. So that's why like Puerto Rico is different than here. There's a lot of like stuff, but here it's different. Here you have to get a license so you could
Is
work.
it constant check-in and
Yeah, so you have to make sure that you're like legit. You know, like when I was here, when I started here, I had my Puerto Rico license. It was a pain to like switch it. So at the beginning, I was like, nah, I might don't need it or whatever because I have my Puerto Rico license. So when the inspector came, it's like, no, you have to switch it, and you have to had to go to Puerto Rico, get a card, like a letter to certify all the hours and send it to Tallahassee and all that. But at the beginning, I was like, all of that just so I could work. But then afterwards, when, like, for instance, when I got my Dyson, and it's like, oh, yeah, if you like a professional, you'll get a discount. And then when I wanted to go to Orlando Premiere and I didn't have my license, like, luckily I bought the ID, like, I bought the ticket at the Orlando Premiere with my Puerto Rico license, and they didn't say nothing. But just to buy it online, like, I would put my Puerto Rico number and it would work.
Wow.
So it was a lot of stuff that were like getting on my way of like stuff that I wanted to do. So more than just like avoiding like the inspection and the fines and stuff like that, there's a lot of doors that will be closed if you don't have a professional license. There's stuff that you're gonna miss out. Like, for instance, I'm going to Orlando. I'm going to CT Barber Expo now, and I'm gonna be with my friend Danny, and they asked us to fill out a form so they could do like a temporary license so we could like be at the show. They asked for my license. If I didn't have my license, I probably could have never gone to CT Barber Expo this year.
But look, license, man, many barbers don't see that way because we, as a professional, we as a barber, we don't go to college.
Mm-hmm.
The percentage of people that graduate college, it's little, the barbers. And we should see our license like our degree in our hands. You know, for us, that's our degree. You know, you actually going to a college, it costs more time and money than getting a barber license.
Yeah.
You know,
And it's something that, like I said, it will open doors, and it gives you like that you're a professional type of thing because you went to school, you learned it. I went to school, but for cosmetology. When I wanted to get into color, I was like,
me too.
I'm not gonna do the same thing that I did with barbering. I'm just gonna go straight to school. I don't know nothing about cosmetology, so this is like, oh, I don't have the excuse that I know how to do it, so I don't need to school. So I went to school, did the cosmetology thing, got my license and everything, and then I was like, now I could work as a like full barber / hairdresser type of thing.
This country, everything works under the law, and I think having a license makes you more secured, more professional, and once you have your license, you're more comfortable working at a place.
Mm-hmm.
And everything has a price, you know. I was forgetting to say, my mentor was a Puerto Rican, Puerto Rican guy, Pito. When I started, he taught me everything. I think he is the one that gave me hope. I was cutting hair. I got here in the States in 2002, 17 years old. I was cutting hair at home also. My roommates, my friends, my brothers, my friends from high school. And one of my roommates, he told me that I was like, I had a gift. And I never took that for real, right? But one time I told my barber that I was working from home, I was cutting here and there, nothing professionally. And he gave me the opportunity to work at his shop. So Puerto Rican, Pito, you guys have the best history in fades, in cutting hair. For me, you are the ones that are creating, Puerto Ricans and Dominicans, you are the ones that create the fade. Mm-hmm. In 2002, you guys was the best in fade. But now, in the whole world, in 2013, it start coming out stronger in the whole world. But before, everything for me started in Puerto Rico. And I really admire people from Puerto Rico because you guys, actually, in every other house in Puerto Rico, there's a barbershop, right?
Yeah.
That's what they say,
Yeah.
right? Can you explain how it is?
There's a shop like in every corner. The thing with that is that at the beginning it used to be like, well, you had construction, which is like super hard, and barbering, which is like not that hard compared to like construction, like working under the sun and carrying all this heavy stuff and doing all this stuff. So if you didn't go to school and you didn't go to college and you didn't have nothing to do, you either go to construction or you'll be a barber. Because some people will go to be a barber because they didn't want to go.
But how's
outside.
the country economy works? Because I think 99% in Puerto Rico, they are barber.
Yeah.
Someone told me from there.
Yeah, there's that. It works because there's a lot of people that work in construction, for instance. So they're getting haircuts. You got kids that go to school that gets a haircut. You have every other job that that needs a haircut. So you always have, and a lot of the barbers that are in Puerto Rico, they always start in high school. They start cutting their friends, and next thing you know, they're a barber. So even from high school, it's like a culture thing. But the thing that I hear that a lot, like, oh, you guys are pretty good and all of that. And the thing is that, to me, I don't think, I know we're good and everything, but I don't think it's just because we're Puerto Rican. I think it's more that the clients that we have kind of like force us to be that way. Because like the Puerto Rican clients are like the worst. They're like picky. They'll stand in the mirror and try to make sure that the line is super straight.
It's just because every single barbers over there, they are great.
Yeah.
And then they kind of look, oh, that one got a better fade than mine, so
Yeah.
you should fix this up.
And the thing is that they either get a haircut like every week or twice a week. So, like, for instance, here I notice in Miami, Florida, whatever, I noticed that a lot of people get a haircut like once a month.
Yep.
So when you come back in a month that your hair is like super long, like all you want is just get rid of the hair. You're not paying attention if the barber
the
left the
details, yeah.
line, or of your, like, maybe your shape up is crooked, or the blend is like correct. Like, you're not paying attention to that. You just wanted to get rid of your hair. Now you have a haircut, you're good to go. In Puerto Rico, since you're getting a haircut every week, every little detail they could tell. So you have to be super like detailed, and you have to be fast. Because back then, now we have like evolved, and now we do appointments. But Puerto Rico used to be like just walk-ins, and just like, you just write your
It's
name
improving,
in
it's
the
growing,
list,
right?
and you write your name on the list, and somebody will show up to the shop and like, oh, how many you got? Oh, I have 5 people there.
What in barbering in general, because I want to say in general, because I would say 10 years ago, 20 years ago, nobody was using an app, or
Mhm.
more like waiting a line and that's it. And tell me about more how that culture of barbering starts in Puerto Rico. Do you know about the history of barbering in Puerto Rico?
No, I don't know.
Barbering. I saw you went this weekend
Mm-hmm.
to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
How is the feeling to be around Benji, Barbero Benji, be around these celebrities, as you are one of
Mhm.
them? I take you as a famous because you're hustling, you're constantly working and putting effort to be who you are today. But how is this thing to be close to Barbero Benji
To
and
me,
meet the friends?
It was kind of crazy because it was one of those things that I was just like, oh, my friend Joanny, the Chica Barbe, she was like, oh, just come through. We have a game. I was like, oh, I don't know. She's like, oh, come on. We're going to have a good time, whatever. I was like, oh, just 5 minute ticket. Let's go. So I went. But I didn't, like, when I haven't been in Puerto Rico for like 3 years and a half, almost 4. So to me, like, it's normal. Like, I go there, like, the same barber that left the island 4 years ago. I'm thinking I'm like just another barber there. So when I got there, everybody was like, "Oh, yo, like, wait, how you been?" and everything, and everybody's asking me for pictures and all of that. I'm like, "Oh, like, I'm just like you." Like, to me, it felt like overwhelming, because sometimes you working like too much, but you don't realize what you're doing, type of thing. And when I got there, I was like, oh, like, I'm doing a lot because these people, like,
You don't realize how much you have grown.
yeah. And
Right?
when you go back, it's like everybody like sees you different. Before, I didn't used to get that. Like, before, I was just like, I was doing my seminars and everything, but it wasn't like nothing big. And when I went back, it was like I was like one of the other guys, like Benji and this other guy. And like, to me, they're still like huge to me. Like,
But you don't imagine how much you add in value to these people. You
Yeah.
don't have that in
No.
your conscience, right?
I don't have it.
Because
I'm
they are
just-
watching you. They are watching you work.
Yeah, I just go there like a normal barber, thinking that we're just gonna play basketball and that's it, and just have a good time on the beach and eat and stuff like that, and that's it. And the way they see me is different. And to be like with all these celebrity barbers that like I look up to, like Benji and
Does Benji is your close friend?
no, he's not like my close friend. I know who he is, and I know him way before I came to Miami, but he was there, and he's friend of one like Giovanni. They're like really close, and they hang out, and like they're over there in Puerto Rico. So he was just hanging out with us, and it's like the most that I hang out with him was like this past weekend. I was like Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We went to eat. It was super cool because we got to talk about like the industry. We got to talk about family. We got to talk about like growing each other, like stuff that you're doing good and stuff that you could improve, and we talk about like family stuff, and everybody was like, it was a different vibe, even though it kind of felt weird because I was there by myself and everybody was with their wife and I was by myself. But it was kind of cool because I learned a lot from them, like Otto and Barbero Benji. They were like giving us a lot of tips, and we were talking about like traveling and the shows and preparing social media and doing all this content and like the backstage stuff that we don't like listen to, or maybe they don't tell us in the video, all the stuff that go behind the scenes and the contracts and like the deals that they have, and like how much you get paid to go to like Mexico and do a show. And like they was sharing their experiences, and you kind of like over here like thinking like, oh, so you get paid for this and you get paid for that, and you could do this instead of doing that.
It opens in your mind, right?
Can you share with us, without saying names or specific numbers, something that you heard? They were like, oh, this is interesting. I didn't know this worked that way.
Like I heard like some barbers from a clipper company that I don't want to mention here because I don't know.
Yeah,
It's all
don't
good.
say
It's all good.
names.
So there's barbers that get paid. They only get paid for the shows. I thought that their freaking names or faces were on the clipper. They're getting paid for like everything that has to deal with the clipper, but they really don't. They get paid for the shows. If they go to the show, they get paid for that. And if they sell a clipper, the deal was like you only get $1 for that clipper, even though the clipper is like $200.
Oh, you mean it's separately? They got paid separately by whatever
Separately.
they are doing in that moment.
Yeah, but I thought since they're using the image of that person that is there, I thought they would be getting paid for the image and all the promotion that they do, but they actually don't. They actually get paid just to do the shows. And they don't do shows. They don't get like a monthly. I thought they were getting like a monthly check. And I found out that they don't. I was like, oh, that's crazy. Because, you know, like they're selling the image. They're selling the product. They're talking about the product constantly, and if they're not getting paid for it, that's crazy.
I think their biggest gain is being famous in the industry, and
Being recognized.
they can make money and be paid for other stuff. So they don't get a percentage of the sales of the clippers or products or whatever, but then other shows, other brands start hiring them to go to places and teach and be there and whatever it might be the case.
But to me, is something that I thought that was a giving because you're like signed with that company. So that falls in like what I learned from that was like that falls into what can I do with this exposure, like, you know. So if you get exposed, like for instance, I recently got signed with Wahl, right? I'm an ambassador for Wahl.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So now I have to do some videos for them and review some products and stuff like that. That's what I have to do with Wahl. But what am I going to do with that exposure? What doors am I going to open with that? Like what I have to do to like put my name out there and make sure that that opportunity that Wahl is giving me, I take it.
Yeah, that falls on you. That's your responsibility.
And some people, like myself and some other people that see it in social media, think that all the success and all the stuff that they're getting is just because, oh, yeah, he's like that because he signed with such and such. Oh, yeah, he's an ambassador for this brand, so no wonder he's doing good. Like, most of the time, it's not even the brands. It's like what the barber is doing with that exposure. So that's what I learned from it, and I was like, that's something.
What you do with the opportunity, right? But all companies, I think they have their own thing.
Yeah.
Their
Different
own
contracts,
way,
right?
Own
Yeah,
way to
different
do their
contract.
contracts and
And
stuff.
different barbers, I bet like maybe this guy is not getting paid all that stuff, but maybe some
Someone
other
else.
guy were like, yo, like I signed that contract, but you got to put this in there because,
Yes.
So some people will deal differently. And if you don't know, like, for instance, now that I know, we could deal differently because I was like, well,
It's a
that's
hu-
not the only option.
It's a huge
There's-
opportunity to be exposed, definitely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
whatever you do with that, it's on us, on you, that's your commitment that you're gonna have with that brand. And then
Yeah, because at the end of the day, the brand needs the exposure for you to like share the product. But at the end of the day, they'll have like they still have the product and they still have to do their marketing, they still have to do their stuff. You're like part of the marketing. You have to do your own stuff and create your own marketing strategy so you could grow. It's not the brand's like job to make you grow. It's because you're already growing, that's why you're part of the brand. But if you stop growing, you're not going to be part of the brand anymore. So you have to do your work to make sure that all the opportunities you get, make the best out of it and grow as much as you can. So in the future, you'll be in a better position to get better deals and better contracts. And
For
better.
sure.
So to me, it's like something that I really learned from hearing them talking about different brands. I was like,
Is there a lot of fights in the background between barbers, like conflicts between the ambassadors?
they are, but like for instance, the people that I was around with, I think the reason why we get along was because, I mean, we didn't mention no names. We wasn't talking about nobody. We were just talking about like our experiences, and we were talking about, oh, this what helped me get this, and like, oh, I went to this stage and I did this and I did that. And maybe if you're like, for instance, like Joanny she got reached out to get booked to go to Colombia. So we were over here talking about like, oh, when I went to Colombia, I did this and they gave me this and this is how I worked my deal. And then this other guy was like, yo, I went to Colombia and I did this deal with this other person and this is how I manage it. And we were giving her tips about how she would go about like answering that offer and like counter offer to be like, oh, this is how much I want and this is what we're trying to make a deal with them. And it was more about like, what can I do with my experience to try to help you get a better deal in yours? It wasn't more like, oh yeah, but you're gonna go there and they're gonna like, last time I went there, these people just let me in a like a 1-star hotel and they didn't give me food and like all that stuff that sometimes happens. But once you start like getting into that like negativity and this guy is against this other guy because of this brand, and it just kind of like derails the conversation and it kind of turns into like this toxic vibe and it turns into
doesn't
like
go
this,
nowhere, right?
Yeah, it just turns into gossip and we're just like
But-
talking about other people instead
But I
of
think
like,
sharing experience, like you were saying, being humble, listen, learning from others, I think that's just amazing. But more amazing is one thing. The reason why I create this podcast, the Black Belt Barber podcast, is to hear stories like yours, to hear stories like everybody that came in here, so people get to know who you are, the humble person that you are, how much effort you put into work to be where you are today,
I want to know more about, so you lived in New Jersey, then you went back to Puerto Rico, right? Then after the hurricane, you moved to Miami with your whole family, your kids. How was that? Did you start working in a shop right away? How was the experience?
It was super crazy because before that, I haven't been away from my family for more than like 2 weeks. Like if I would do a show somewhere like out of the country, I would never stay more than 2 weeks because I had to go back to see the kids and stuff like that. When we went to New Jersey, after the hurricane, I went straight to New Jersey because that's where my mom was at. And we decided to stay there for like Christmas, because we were like, if there's a lot of people here like struggling and stuff, and they would give like an arm and a leg just to be in the state with light, just normal. And we had the opportunity because I had all my family is over there in New Jersey. So I was like, let's just go there, do the whole Christmas thing with the kids over there like that. They don't have to like have a weird Christmas and not have like light or food and maybe. So we decided to go there just for the Christmas. And then we decided, my mother-in-law, she lost her house to the hurricane. So she went to my house when we left. So me going back to Puerto Rico means I had to take my mother-in-law out of my house. So that
Wow.
means she had nowhere to go. So it's like, okay, so we do go back, we take your mom out, and then she has nowhere to go, or we stay here. So we decided to stay there and decided to stay like, oh, we're just going to start from scratch here. But in New Jersey, I wasn't making that much money. Like, that was like, I said I was working for like 18 years, so take 3 or 4 out, 15 years I was working, and I never had like a December 31st off or the 24th off. And that was like the first year in my whole career that I didn't work on the
What
30th.
year is that?
On 2018.
Okay.
Because it was on a Sunday. One, the shop was closed, and even if it was open, I didn't have no clients. I got there November 3rd. I started working like on maybe Thanksgiving, so I didn't have no clients to be like going to. So I was like, yo, like, I'm not making that much money here. If we're gonna stay here, we started looking at the prices of the apartments and stuff, and I was like, wait, this thing is expensive. So it's gonna take me a while for me to like build a clientele so I could pay for everything. And I started calling barbers here and there, like Texas, Orlando, Miami, everywhere that I knew a barber that left from the island and was working. And I spoke to Joanny, she was at Miami. And she told me that she was working for the Spot Barbershop, which is like a franchise. She was like, oh, I'm doing good. I'm making this much money. I started looking at the rent in Miami versus the one in New Jersey. Everybody told me not to go to Miami because it's like super expensive. It's like, no, that's not the place to be. Go to Orlando. It's cheaper and you'll be fine. But I don't know. It was something about Miami that I always wanted to go. So I was like, oh, let's just go. But my wife didn't want to because she's like, oh, I'm not starting from scratch somewhere. Like here, at least we have your mom. We know somebody. But over there, we don't know nobody. It was like, so I decided to like just go by myself. Rented an Airbnb for 2 weeks. And I just showed up to Miami. I was like, let me see if I get a job. If I like it, I'll stay here. And then I just bring you guys over. And if not, then I'll just go back to New Jersey.
Well,
And I did that. So I kind of liked it. I got the spot. They hired me and everything. So I was like, I'm just going to work here. And I'm just going to bring you over. And then.
was a salon or was a barbershop?
No, the barbershop.
Barbershop?
The spot, baby.
Oh,
Very-
you worked at the spot.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
thought it
the
was the
spot.
girl only.
No, she was working there.
Yeah,
so
and
she
then-
spoke to the owner and
Oh, okay.
everything. And then I went there for 2 weeks. And I started working with them. But I only had an Airbnb for 2 weeks.
Oh,
So when I got hired, I was like, okay, so that means I'm going to stay here. So I talked to the lady from the Airbnb. Hey, can I stay up for the rest of the month? She's like, no, I already have people. I rented it. And I was like, oh. So
Where did you go?
I rented another Airbnb, and these people never answered the phone. I was supposed to go there the following day. I paid and everything to the app, and they never answered the phone. So I was in the street with no.
you were
where to go to-
devastated because you got your family, right?
No, my family
mean,
was
the
in New
family was
Jersey.
in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So
So
I
what
was-
did you do?
Joanny, she was like, oh, you could stay here for the night until tomorrow. You could find somewhere to go, whatever. And then the next day, we tried to figure out like what we were gonna do. And her husband was like, instead of just jumping around from Airbnb to Airbnb, if you want, you could stay there, just buy an air mattress and just like they didn't even
Stay
have
there.
like a living room set or anything. They just had like an empty space there. You could stay there in that corner if you want.
Well, she's been your real friend, right?
Yeah. So I spent there for like 4 months, maybe. And my family, they stayed in New Jersey for 8 months.
Wow.
And I was crazy because we had to wait for my daughter to finish school. So she will miss, like, when you bring your kids to the States, they always like put them, like if they're in first grade, they put them in a kindergarten or because the level of the education is different. And so she was in second grade, which she was supposed to be at second grade. So they put her back. So she was repeating second grade. And they were like, no, because she's at another level. So we had to like give her. So we didn't want her to miss second grade again and be like, oh, we're going to Miami now, so you have to go back, and this whole mess. So she decided to stay over there till like summer.
Wow.
So,
Until she finished that year, right?
and then she came over.
How long you work at the
I worked
The
at the
spot.
spot for a year and a half.
year and a half, and then you moved to the place you are today, or no?
No.
Where are you working now?
I worked in Midtown. I work in a private studio, and it's like a loft there. It's a building that has like a bunch of loft, and you could actually work and live there, or live there, and or do the both, or do one or the other. It's like a weird building, but it's super cool. And I
You
work
you
at,
working by yourself inside, or
yeah, now I'm working by myself. Now I have my own studio. My wife is on the second floor doing nails, and I'm downstairs doing hair, and I have another stylist with me.
Oh, okay. You
So,
have a space to create all the creation that you do.
yeah,
The
no.
art, the coloring,
Now
artist side.
now I have a space for me to create and not worry about like having a lot of people around. Like I don't really like. It's not that I don't like people around me. It was it was 7 of us in the other studio that were working, and sometimes there's like different people doing hair and toning and for me to bring the camera out and the lights and just like do a whole setup, that means like
And there's no nothing wrong to grow. You know,
no.
it meaning that you're growing.
At the beginning, we was at the biggest space before the pandemic. We were like this huge, like one of those, like one of the.
20 chair barbershop.
No, it was. It had 6 chairs on that one, but the space was like enormous. But then after the pandemic, one of like her, how you call that? Like the person, they did the business partner. One of the business partner, she opened a studio in Miami Beach. So they split. So the owner that was left, she decided to get a smaller one because it was only 4 of us and we didn't need that much space. And on top of it, like if she said if like somebody else would leave, then she wanted a space that she could afford by herself. So that's when after the pandemic we went to that space, which it was a little bit smaller. It was fine for us, but then we started getting more people instead of 4. Now we're 7, and now it's like there's 2 shampoo bowls, and we have to wait for the shampoo bowl because somebody's toning at the shampoo bowl. It's like, okay, but I just need to wash this guy's hair so he could go home. And it started like becoming like, okay, it's too much people in one place, so we can't do like a lot of stuff. So I would stop like doing my content. I will only do it like on a Sunday or maybe a Monday that I know that nobody was working there. Or if I was there, I would just go do the color and then do like if you see my videos, like most of them are like outside. It wasn't like a trend or something. It was like I'd rather do it outside to have it done on the shop. So
I think we always start somewhere. And you have to do what we have at that moment.
yeah,
You know,
you have to make it work.
you have your own clientele at the loft now at
Yeah,
your own
I have
studio?
to. I have to because when I went there, it's one of those like places that is good. So like the space and everything is like super like industrial looking and it's like super cool. But the bad thing about it is like it's like an apartment building. It's not like one of those like salon suites that you go there and you go to the lobby and there's a whole list of all the businesses that there. Like you could have a salon next door or a person living next door and you won't even know. You walk down the hallway, you don't know if the person lives there or there's a business there. So it's really hard to get walk-ins there. So you have to rely 100% on
On
social
your own
media
clientele
and word of mouth or your own clientele like coming in.
Oh, that's comes a question. Are you fully booked right now?
I'm not fully booked. Not because I don't want to. It's more that the clientele that I built, half of it I lost that in the pandemic, so I had to start again. And because in the pandemic, you know how everything got super crazy, and my wife was like paranoid with the kids and everything. It's like, no, you're not doing house calls, you're not going out, you're not doing like I didn't cut nobody in the whole pandemic.
Wow.
So it was crazy. So a lot of clients were calling me like, yo, like, can you come to my house, cut my hair? I'm like, bro, I can't because if I go to your house, I can't come back home and I'd rather stay here. And so it was very difficult. So eventually everybody started getting their own barber to show. There was barbers doing house calls for the same price.
What you have done to rebuild your clientele? What you done? What
Honestly,
the difficulties? What the strategy?
To me, it was difficult, but I just forgot about stressing about building a clientele and I just focused on, okay, how much do I need to make to cover the rent? For instance, when I went back to work, they did the whole like instead of paying weekly, we used to pay $300 a week for the rent. We were doing $75 a day. So if I would go cut one client, I was charging $40 at the time. If I would go cut one client, that means I'm still like negative 35. So to me, it's like, okay, I have this option. One, we have to cut people for more times because we have to like clean and disinfect and do all this stuff. So now you can't cut somebody for 30 minutes. You have to cut them for an hour because you have to clean. You have to give yourself time to cut the person, clean, disinfect, prepare everything for the next client. So that means that if I would go cut you for an hour, that means I have to charge you $80 because my hour was worth 40 to clients, $80. So I spoke to a lot of my clients. I'm like, bro, I'm in this position right now. I could charge you $80 or I could charge you $50, which means that by me charging you $50, you're gonna pay $10 more, but I'm still missing out 30. And if you're good with that, we could do it, but I have to have 5 people at least from 12 to 5, so it will make it worth it for me to go to the shop and pay $75 for that day. And a lot of people understood, a lot of people didn't because it's like a $10 raise on the pandemic and it's crazy. So that taught me a lesson that at the end of the day, you have to look out for yourself. The clients are going to look out for themselves. They're going to find the best deal, or doesn't matter how long they've been cutting with you. I'm like, I'm losing $30. You paying $10 more. And I saw that a lot of people wasn't willing to do that sacrifice, even though I was losing out on $30.
There's many ways you lose clients and you gain clients. One of them, it's convenience. When client live close to your place, to a spot, and then they move to another city, they're not going to come back to you. Mm-hmm. One of them is price and value. People don't see the value, they look at the price, so they're going to look somewhere else. So there's many ways clients come and go. But I saw something, I think, on Instagram way back. You have a background as a hairdresser.
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw you teaching for one brand. I don't know if it's Weller. You were teaching on a stage. Mm-hmm. What brand was it? Tell me about your background in hairdresser.
I'm certified with Wahl, and I'm certified with Olaplex, and I'm certified with Provana.
Congratulations. That's amazing. So many people that are watching us, they don't know that. Even myself, yeah. I didn't know that.
What I did, the most thing that I learned from school when I was in cosmetology was that when you go to school, you have to go to, like, if you really want to learn, you have to go take seminars somewhere else. Because the school, it has like a program that we're going to teach you what they need to teach you so you can learn and pass the board test and you're good. Everything else you want to learn, you have to do it on your own. So I started going to like different brands and like taking the certification.
Can you say that louder? So there's many people are listening, yeah, and really listen from others, the way you're just saying. Because in school, if you get stuck in your career, you're going to be forgotten, yeah, right?
You have to. It's like just like what we were talking about. You have to look out for your own growth and do what you could do best with the opportunity. You have the opportunity to be in school, and they're here bringing like a lot of like brands to teach you about their product and how to use it, and but you have to, like, after you take that class in school, you have to find out where they're doing the next one, and they're gonna do like a more in-depth class that you have to pay, but you're going to learn more than what they're going to teach you in school. And you have to it's on you to go and be like, oh, I want to learn that technique, or I want to learn more about this brand because I really like it. And every brand is going to teach you how to use their products. And not all the brands are, even though they're like colored and bleach and you're bleaching hair and applying color, but all the colors have different techniques, and every brand have their own technique. And every brand have their own little numbers in the color thing, and one uses numbers, the other one uses letters. And when you go to the supply, and if you don't know that, you might grab in the wrong color. So I started going to like different brands and taking the seminars and learning more, like. And then I started understanding when I went to the next brand, and they started talking about levels and color undertoning and all that. I started understanding all of that because I took so many classes before that, even though there was different brands.
I think the brands are doing a great job educating barbers and hairdressers. Sometimes I would say they do a better job than schools.
Yeah.
Because they are constantly involved in what's trending, and then they have really good educators. They
Mm-hmm.
have seminars, they have workshops. We took a seminar from Paul Mitchell. It wasn't to do like haircuts, it was more how to manage a barbershop. And I was amazed. It was like 4 days and we learned so much. So I think the brands are doing a great job
Yeah.
in, like, for instance, Orlando Premiere, that it's close to us. We always go every year. They do a great job
And they
teaching.
helping exposing a lot of artists, good artists. There
And
are
I
kind
didn't
of hate, and now they are exposed.
I didn't even know that. Like when I my first time when I went to Orlando Premiere, there's so many classes in there that you're like, I want to take this one, but it's at the same time as this one, so you have to pick and choose. Like, oh, like do I take this one or
You
that
know
one?
what I can see? I saw in your profile. I'm cutting you off because this is amazing. I see if I look in your profile, you're always involved. You're always involved in education. You're always out there. You're always connecting. You're always learning. You
Because
know.
you have to. Because if you stop educating yourself, you stop growing. Doesn't matter how much you know. Doesn't matter who you know. Doesn't matter how much you travel. If you don't educate yourself, you're gonna stop growing. Because they're gonna keep learning. They're gonna keep putting out new techniques. They're gonna keep out putting new products. They're gonna, and you have to learn. And especially if you want to be an educator, if you want to teach somebody, it's gonna get to a point. Like for instance, let's say I've stopped going to seminars, and I keep teaching color, whatever. It's gonna get to a point that I already said everything that I know, and everybody there's gonna be somebody
It's
that's gonna
old
go.
school.
Yeah, somebody's gonna come to my class and gonna be thinking that they're gonna get something new, and they come to my class. It's like, oh, this is the same thing that this guy said like a year ago, because you don't have nothing new to pour out.
You know what I have to say about that? To be able to be an educator, you need to sit down and learn first.
Yep.
And then you stand up to teach.
Of course,
Right.
'Cause if you're not learning, you don't have nothing. Like it's like you're like an empty vessel. Like if you don't fill it up, you fill it up when you educate yourself. You pour it when you're given the education. Then you're empty again, so you have to fill it up again, because then your next class you don't have nothing to give them. You're just like talking.
And
out
the
of
more
ear.
you fill it up yourself with knowledge, information, connection, you can, how you said, overflow in other people's life.
Mhm.
And you're saying, one thing that you're saying, like if you don't go to those places, connect with those people and learn, you stop in your life, in your career. But there was something that I wanted to say about that. I think life is like an escalator. Escalator is constant moving, right? If you stop in escalator, right, you keep moving backwards, right?
Mhm.
I don't think there's stability in life. Or either you moving forward, but you never stop, or you just always
Move.
backing up, you know?
Yeah.
So that's amazing to see you in all social medias that you have. You are educating yourself. You're constantly out there connecting with people.
And one thing that I learned from your
Class?
Workshop?
the
Seminar?
class, the one that you guys had on Bird, remember?
Uh-huh.
It was at your shop. That class, it was so crazy because I went there like not knowing nothing. Like I learned, I knew who Bird was, but it wasn't like I knew like Bird, whatever. And to me, I connected with him there, but it was like I asked him, like, the typical like barbers, like, oh, follow me, this is my page, and this is and that. And he told me one thing that to some people might be like, what this guy thinks he is, but he told me like, oh, I only follow people that I met in person. But I was there with him, so he followed me. So he's like, oh, I'm following you because I only follow people that I meet in person. So like to me at the beginning, I was like, what does it matter? Like if you don't meet him. But then afterwards, I started thinking about it, because now when I see him somewhere, like he's gonna
Remember you.
Yeah, he's gonna remember me. Oh, you're the guy that was in the class, and this is and that. And another thing, when it really hit me was like, remember when Bird was like, oh, everybody stand up and like share their social media and start following each other. The guy that was in front of me, we shared social media, and when he looked me up, he was like, you this guy? And I was like, yeah. He was like, yo, I follow you for like, look. And he showed me like all his saved posts. He
Wow.
had a bunch of saved posts. and he didn't even know that was me. And like to me, that like changed my whole like thing. One bird telling me about like meeting people and following and connecting with them, and then a lot of people that follow you that never seen you in person, and it was more because I wasn't showing my face a lot back then. I was just cuts and cuts because I didn't really like. I didn't think I had to show my face, but that seminar like changed. Like okay,
You
I
know,
had to show
Bird
up.
taught me a lot too. I really, I'm very grateful for what he's have done for me. When I met him, I start realizing that the same thing as you. He taught me a lot. Actually, he taught me to be less afraid to talk in public, to connect with more people, like you just say in person, be out there. Tico, you need to be out there, man. He was pushing me, I was sweating and talking. He said, "You can do it."
He
So
even
I love Bird, man.
invited Tico to showcase on the rise of hair, and I think that was very important to make you more confident about your potential, because I don't know if this happened to you where you're afraid like, oh my god, am I really good to the point I can be on stage? Maybe I'm not that good. You feel like you don't know enough, and then you're scared like, what if I don't know enough to teach all these people? So he was a really good friend that encouraged Tico, and he invited him because Tico couldn't speak in public. He
Yeah.
I
couldn't.
couldn't.
That's
He
that.
Like
would
this?
choke.
This, I will be sweating in my armpit right now.
Yeah.
And here, like sweating.
And that's something that happens to all of us. Like for instance, I went to Mexico like a couple of months ago with their body, and it was like I haven't been in Mexico for like 3 years or something like that. It was crazy. And when I went there, I was like, oh, like I've been here. Like there's like it's something
So you
normal.
comfortable?
Yeah, when I got on stage and I saw all these people, it was like I felt like I
Sure.
was like the first time on stage. It's crazy. And it's one of those things that even though you've been there and you're confident that what you're saying, you know what you're saying, you start thinking about, am I, like what she was saying, like, am I good enough? Are they gonna listen? If people are like quiet and listening to you, you start thinking like, am I boring them, or they're paying attention, or they wanted me to shut up? And it's like a lot of things going through your
It's
head.
just scary.
Yeah, so you
You know-
have to like loosen yourself and do it
Little by little.
little by little, and do it and do it and do it until you start like feeling like, okay,
I think the first 10 minutes is very scary.
yeah,
But I think the second fears, the biggest fears of a person, the first one is dying, death. That's
No,
the
it's
first one.
public speaking.
No, second.
Yeah, is the second?
Public speaking is the second biggest fear of any human being
that's
in
crazy.
the planet. That's crazy,
Yeah,
right?
that to me is first.
So,
like,
Tell me when we met at the first time, me and you. When was it?
I think it was at that show.
Rise of Hair?
no, the one at Invictus. Bird was there. I was cutting.
But Invictus was after Rise of Hair.
Yeah, but
I remember seeing you and Papi Blends at the Rise
But
of
he
Hair,
was
which
at the
was
sh-
2019. Did
Yeah.
we do the
Yeah.
thing at the shop before the Rise of Hair?
that was after.
That was after.
That was after. But the thing is that when I went to Rise of Hair with Papi Blends, I still didn't. I was in that stage that nobody knew who I was, and I was like one of that guy that was going. Papi Blends told me he was going to that show. Oh, let's go. I was like, let's go. I bought the
I
ticket.
think that was the
let's-
first connection I did with
Yeah.
him also.
And I went there, and I saw a lot of people that I didn't know. Like you
Oh.
were there.
You know, I think when we did the World Barber competition, Papi competed. Were you there watching it or no?
Where?
At the shop, we have a barber competition. Andama was
Like
there.
a barber battle TV show thing.
No.
Undama
You're
was
not there.
You weren't
No.
there? What?
No, my first time was that
Oh.
time.
That's the thing. It was in 2018, and he wasn't like more.
I was in the spot locked in.
Okay, yeah, there.
in the
You were
spot.
there, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't like. I met Papi Blends at the spot because he texted me one time, and he asked me for like a private class because he wanted to learn color, and he knew I know how to do color, but I wasn't like doing color in social media that much. But I guess he went to my page or somebody told him, and that's how we connected. And then he started going to the shop, and he was going training, and he just stopped by. We talked for a little bit. Then he came, got his hair done, and that's why we built like a friendship. And then when I left the spot, he got me to work where he was working at. And then he was like, "Oh, you just come over here." I talked to the owner. He got me a share there, and that's when we started working together. Since we were working together, we decided to just go. And like he was doing
You guys
that.
work together all the time.
Yeah, we worked together for 3 months. In those 3 months, I was
I mean, you work together, like, walking around,
yeah.
going to shows and
Yeah, because
workshops.
I was in that same trip. Like I wanted to learn everything about like the barber industry. Like everything was new for me. Because obviously in Puerto Rico we have a big show which is San Juan Beauty Show. It's like kind of like Orlando premiere, but that's it. That's like that show, and we have another one. It's like down south, but not a lot of people go to that one unless you like live down there. It's like a 3 hour drive. Not a lot of people go there. So to us, it's like everything is like online, or we wait for that big show at the end of the year. So when I came over here, it was like a bunch of shows everywhere. I was like, I want to go everywhere. I want to learn. I want to see people. I want to see what you guys are doing and stuff like that. So he started telling me like, look, I'm going to this show, Rights of Hair, and he was competing for the freshman class back then, and he was supposed to submit the last picture, but he didn't, but he still wanted to go to network and stuff, so we decided to go. So,
You made a huge progress in such a short period of time. And we interviewed Papi too, and we noticed the same thing with him. We interviewed Andama. Even though you guys have a lot of experience in terms of like years, Papi has less years than you,
Mhm.
but Andama, both of them have a lot of years in the field. I noticed a pattern that you guys, in a short period of time, grew so much, and you were, how can I say, you became social media influencers that other barbers are looking and say, "Oh my God, this guy is doing really good. Look
But
what
you
he's
meant
doing."
you meant short period of time what people are seeing it, but whatever they have done before that
Yeah,
was
but
lots of work.
But what I
saying,
mean
what
is-
she's saying, like, for instance, I've been here 4 years. That same 4 years is the 4 years that Papi Blend's
okay, I
been
got you.
working as a barber. I think it's 4 or 5 years.
Correct,
So basically, when I moved to Miami, Papi Blends was just starting barbering,
correct.
and I was cutting hair for 15 years before I came here.
But when you got here, it's like you jump from here to here. What would you say that was the biggest factor that helped you? Now you're teaching, you signed with Wahl. How did it happen in a short period of time, meaning since you got here? What did you
Because-
do?
What I was saying basically in that 4 years of time, me, Papi Blends, Andama even though me and Andama and his wife have years behind us cutting hair, but those 4 years, 2018 from now, it's been more like education, traveling. If you really look at all three of us, we all been like going to shows, going to seminars, going networking, and being everywhere that we can be.
Amazing.
And that, I think that's what makes you like grow. One, people start noticing you more because you're at the shows. Two, you start learning a lot of new things and a lot of new techniques and a lot of like trends that are happening that people still haven't catch up to it because they didn't go to the show, so they missed out. So now you're over here showing it, and people started realizing, oh, when the trends start popping, you're over there doing what you already know how to do. It's like, how this guy learned how to do this? And it just came out because we've been at the shows like 2 years ago. And all of this stuff, it like accelerates the growth because you're learning and you're ahead of the pack, how they say. And that makes you want to get noticed a little bit more than others. You start seeing other barbers that are like influencers or
Connecting with them.
connecting with them, and you start seeing what they're doing and what making them grow, and you start asking those type of questions. Oh, I want to be in Wahl. What do I have to do? Or like even like this whole Wahl thing, it wasn't like a goal for me, but it was me working in my craft and me working in my content and try to grow myself, that I started getting noticed by other people and other brands. And when I do a seminar, it's easier for me to sell a class because I'm already like doing, like if I was, let's think about it. If I wasn't creating content around color and doing all this crazy stuff that I do with color, Do you really think people were gonna buy a seminar just because I say I know how to do it? You have to do all that work, show it to them, and then make them want to learn what you're already
you're doing.
doing.
There is a saying that I like, which is take care of your garden and then the butterflies will come. Don't chase the butterflies. And a lot of barbers could be doing these the opposite way. That's why they don't get results. They're chasing butterflies instead of just taking care of the garden. So you're showing your process, you've been out there, all shows, all seminars, and you're showing to people, hey, look, I'm here because I want to learn more. And then the butterflies start coming to you because they see, oh, he can teach me, he can help me.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest secret.
And
Take care of your garden.
And one of my mottos has always been like, there's always an easier way of doing things. What it takes me 3 years to learn, if I teach it to you, and it took me 3 years, and I teach you now, it's gonna take you like 3 months. But it took me 3 years to learn it, and like learn it by myself, and try to figure out how can I do this without nobody telling me how to. So that makes us cut corners and kind of like speed up the process. Because if I ask you how to like set up the cameras, and you already like kind of learn how to do that, it's gonna save me some 3 hours of YouTube videos how to set up the cameras when you could tell me like in 15 minutes.
Exactly.
So that helped us, me and Papi Blends and Andama, in these 4 years, asking the right person the stuff that we wanted to learn, to avoid waiting 3 to 5 years to learn it by ourselves, trying to like doing mistakes.
Yes.
And it makes us grow faster.
Wow, that's a really good answer. Since coloring is very popular, I think it's that very artistic. I think you have to have a gift to do that because I cannot do it myself. I don't have the ability to draw like you guys
That's
do.
the same thing I said about scissors. And
what made you choose coloring, like go strong, go forward in coloring?
because to me, the only thing I like in cosmetology was the cutting with the like not layers and stuff. I like the styles that you do at the show, like the
Creativity,
like
creative.
the
style.
short hair here, long point right here, and like layers, like abstract type of thing. I like that, and that has to do a lot of with color. So I started leaning more towards color because I really like let's say from the hairstyling. I don't do a lot of girls because I want to do a girl that would come to my shop and leave like a totally different person. I want to feel that if I put like 8 hours into her hair, she's gonna look way different. She's not gonna come out of my
For the better.
yeah. She's not gonna come out with a blonde that everybody else in South Beach has. Like to me, it's boring. Like just like if you do a haircut with a one and like a comb over, it gets to a point that it's like another one. That used to happen to me.
And now coloring gave you
And coloring gave me that different that I could do. Because when they go to my chair, they don't even know what they want. Like, they show me pictures and in Instagram, they're like, oh, I like this one, I like that one. But at the end of the day, you do whatever you want. So it's like, okay, I just...
because they trust you also.
I do a cheetah print, or I do a smiley face, or I do whatever. And I feel like I'm creating, and it motivates me to better myself and beat my last work that I did. And let's see, oh, now I did this happy face, so let me do another happy face. But I don't want it to look just the same one that I did, because if I post it, it's kind of like the same work. So it's like I have to challenge myself to do every time something different, because I don't want my feet to look always the same style, because that's not me.
You still do the haircuts, right?
Yeah.
And you cut and then you color. But not every single client that sits in your chair does color, no, right?
No. Like, the thing with social media is you put out there what you want to attract.
What do you want people to see it?
Yeah, I'd rather do 2 colors, which is like $300. That's $600 a day. Maybe put in 4 to 8 hours, let's say, because you're doing color. It's like 2 hours of bleaching and sitting down and with the little pencil and try to draw. It takes you like 4 to 5 hours. But I'd rather do that than cut 10 heads or 20 heads. So that's why I post a lot of color. That's one reason why I post a lot of color, because I'd rather do that than cutting hair. And another thing is, I'm teaching color, so I have to put that because when I do my seminars, they got to see it. So they can
How much you charge for the class?
Depends on the class.
If you don't want to say, it's fine.
No, it's fine. I charge $100 an hour. And let's say I always tell them it's a minimum of five hours because 2 hours you spending it in bleaching.
Bleaching.
So it's like you got 2 hours already on bleach. I teach you everything you need to learn about the bleaching process, but we still have to wait for it. So like, and that time I'm teaching you why I do the bleach this way, what brand I use, and all of that stuff. After that, depending on what you want to learn, it could take me 3 hours to sit down and draw a bunch of happy faces, or we could do silver, which has to do with peroxide and another process, and it depends. So it could go from 5 hours to 6, 7. So
Well,
that's
you
what I
offer
charge.
like a certificate?
Yeah, I always offer a certification because to some people that's valuable, and they put it in the wall and they feel
I
like
think to everybody is
Yeah.
very valuable.
It's an achievement. Every time you go to a seminar and learn something, it's
Yeah.
good to have that piece of paper reminding you
yeah,
that you
when I
accomplished that.
when I took, it's a big achievement. It's like like I was saying, it's like a
Oh.
college degree.
Oh my God. You know what Tico did one time?
What?
I gotta tell you.
I was gonna tell the same, I think.
He went to Josh LaMonica.
You see? Before you say,
You have no idea.
when I was like,
You
was
wanna
like-
tell a story?
is that
So he went to Josh LaMonica in New Jersey, right? And he went by himself. So I booked his flight, I booked the hotel, I booked the car rental, and I even explained to him, listen, this is the hotel, check here in the maps. Here's where the class is gonna take place. Okay, so he was by himself. Usually I go with him because I like to support him. And even though I'm not a barber, I like watching the classes and learning. And then, okay, he was there. He was so happy. He became friends with Josh. And two things happened. One was Josh and the group, Charlie and who
Charlie
else?
Gray, Gian Cardinali, and Gran. I forgot his name.
They didn't have a ride to the airport. And then Tico said, no problem. I can drive you
Oh.
guys to the airport. Let's just stop and eat. And they're like, oh, cool, fine. Tico took them to a
Brazilian
Brazilian
steakhouse.
steakhouse, and they're all vegetarian. They don't eat meat.
that's
First
funny.
thing that happened.
Man, that was so
When
fun.
he got home, he was so happy. He was so excited. It was like a dream for him to take a class with Josh. He was so like, oh my God, I learned so much. And then he shows me the certificate. It was
Guess
someone
what?
else's certificate. It was not his
It was
certificate.
named in I think it was
Whoever.
a girl was somebody
He
else.
never checked.
And
He just grabbed
I was so excited
you were so happy that you just grabbed the first
because look, Josh LaMonica for me in the entire world, he's a role model for me. He's kind of a mentor in social media for me.
That's the one with the Menspire.
Manspire.
Yeah.
I think he's a co-founder too with Sam Wahl. He's kind of a mentor for me from far using social media. I follow him. I learn from him. And when I met him, it was a meeting. I was meeting like how do I say like
Like a celebrity.
a celebrity. I was like totally in love with Josh. And then when you got a certificate from those guys, you know, they are in the industry, they are rocking. It's like you having a degree. It's like you went to college for 10 years and now you got in it. Lift it up like
Yeah.
Lion King, lift the little,
the lion.
the little
Yeah,
lion.
the little Simba.
And then you brought it back with the wrong name.
Yeah.
That's
he
fine.
never-
The
And then
experience
the
was
first
amazing.
thing, when he gave me the certificate, I was like,
Who's that?
Tico, who's whoever? He's like, I don't know, why? I said, because you have the wrong certificate. I can't believe. And Josh went back to UK, so he never actually got a certificate.
So now you're waiting to see him so he could fix your
You say, hey,
certificate.
come
Kind
on,
of.
man, send it back. But I admire him because in technical side, for me, he's the best. I learned since 2008 when I started following him. Was in 2000? No, not 18. He was I think now he's nominated 4 times the best educator in the world.
Yeah, he's pretty.
Yeah, The way
And
they work, the way Men Spire work, they work so clean, you know, they work precisely. And the rest, the result come just nice and clean. So I admire them. And
Talk about Wahl. So
I was gonna ask
you're
them.
selected by Wahl. How does this work? How did they invite you? How was the whole thing with Wahl?
you have to they send me an email, I mean a DM first and an email. You have to like fill out an application and submit like why you wanted to be with Wall. Then you have to submit a video of whatever using the Wall products and stuff. And I submitted that, and then they went through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that submitted it, and then they picked whatever they thought it was a good fit for the brand and what they wanted to do like during this year. I think that they're gonna do it. I don't know for sure. Don't quote me on this one because the way I see it, it says World Ambassador 2022 to 2023. So that means it's like a beginning and an end. Like that's the way I see it. I don't know. Maybe from there they're gonna pick and choose like the educators and stuff like that. But I think they're gonna be switching it around like every year. So
Giving opportunity to
giving,
new artists.
let's say we got 15 now. We have them for a year. They if they find somebody that's a good fit for the educating space, they're just gonna switch them to that side and then just do another 15 and get some more people to do different stuff. And I think that's the way I see it, but they haven't told me. Like they just told
How
me
is the contract? What do you have to do like for them?
all I have to do, honestly, all I have to do is just they're gonna send me some products like every month. Let's say one product a month, and then I would have to do a video. They really think the thing that I like the most about it. When we were at the meeting, they wanted us to be ourselves. Like they don't want us to change. They don't want us to be like, for instance, now I get this wall clipper, and now I have to be like, yeah, the blade runs at such and such RPMs, and is like the break. It's like surgical, whatever, like all that technical stuff. Because at the end of the day, you build an audience and people follow you for a reason. And if you start changing that because now you're like this professional or this guy that like is a master in clippers now, people are gonna start looking at you like, well, what happened? Why he changed? And one, they're not gonna believe that what you're saying is true because you're not your true self.
You're not authentic.
And then two, people might don't want that from you because they follow you for a reason. So they want us to be ourselves. Like for instance, like if I'm reviewing a clipper, I could still do color and just do the haircut with the clipper and then teach them how to cut hair when that clipper is specific. But that doesn't mean I have to stop doing color because I'm not an ambassador for a color brand. I'm an ambassador for a clipper company, but I can still do color. So that's something that I really like, that I don't have to change myself or be somewhere else or somebody else because now I'm with this company.
Authenticity sells without selling. If you're not authentic, it doesn't work. People know. Even if you try to fake something on social media, it's not gonna last forever. People can feel it. This is not authentic.
I'm gonna tell for myself because I have to be constantly on social media and I'm learning every day. But I don't think my audience see what I really am, right, babe? No. Because I'm very funny, I'm very sociable, approachable. But when I got the camera, I got a little shy. English is my second language. It's not an excuse, but I don't show who I am. And I'm trying to, but I think the best thing out of what I'm trying to say is because every day I'm trying to be better.
Yeah, the thing with that is like, it happens to me too. That's one of the reasons why you don't see me talking a lot of English on my page. Because even though I was raised in New Jersey and I grew up there and I learned how to speak English in high school, like to me, I always see myself, I spent 10 years in Puerto Rico and all my audiences in Spanish, and I kind of feel like Bird tells me all the time, it's like, oh, you need to talk English more. You need to start. I'm like, bro, but I already got these people like they already know Spanish. Why would I have to switch? Like I feel that that's not me, and I don't really like how I sound talking English. Everybody tells me it's
Your
fine,
English is just perfect.
It's
but
just
to
perfect.
me it was just like, oh, I don't know. But it's just one of those things that you don't feel comfortable, and you kind of like start thinking more about what you're saying instead of just saying it, and then it becomes of like you don't sound natural, and then when you look back at the video, you kind of look at yourself funny and like, why do I sound like that? It's because you're trying to like say it correctly
Or be
you,
someone that you are not, right?
Babe.
Trying to be perfect. Don't try to
Yes.
be perfect.
Describe myself
Describe you.
behind the cameras.
So yeah, I always tell Tico that he's really funny, like really funny. And he's always making jokes, and he has dyslexia, and he change words and he forgets things, and it's funny because he doesn't notice that he's doing that. Like today he put his shirt on the opposite side and he didn't even notice.
I didn't know.
He
know,
does
with the buttons
crazy
back here
things.
and everything.
Yeah, and when he change words, he says something completely opposite of what he wanted to say, and it sounds funny. But then on social media, if he's posting a story, he wants to say whatever the message he wants to say. Like, it doesn't show this side that he's constantly messing up the words, and it's so funny. He's a funny person.
The thing with that is, like, I learned this. Like, I'm telling you this, this applies to me too. But I learned it now that I'm doing the studio. Why? Because I decided to record the whole process with this phone. Like, I was just, like, building and, like, hey, talking to the phone. And I record the whole thing. And, like, I had to put it on YouTube, but I have it here. And what I learned is, like, since I didn't have nobody there, I wasn't really talking. Like, you know this feeling when you're talking on Instagram that you kind of feel like everybody's looking at the story while you're recording it? I didn't have that feeling because I was recording to the phone, and when I looked back at it, it was on my phone. Nobody seen it yet. So it lets me be
more secure.
The person that I wanted to be without worrying about nobody looking at me. So what you could do is instead of recording a stream to Instagram, just record yourself and just act normal, and then you upload it. Wow. And you don't have to feel like people are looking at you. Because the thing with that, what she was saying is that I started watching myself and I started laughing. I started telling jokes that I never do, and I started talking about weird stuff. And what I learned from it was like, there's a lot of stuff that you're saying or your personality that people could relate. Maybe they're the same way as you. Man, maybe they twist the words.
I'm the type of person that I mess with everybody. Even someone that I don't know, I mess with them. I joke. And then Alicia say, do you know that person? I know. I don't.
What is the name of your client? Is it Burger King?
No, McDonald's.
Okay, yeah. McDonald's. So his client last name is McDonald. And then every time the client walks in, he say, hey, Mr. Burger King. Yeah. And then some clients are really good looking. And then he comes and say, how does it feel to be beautiful? I would love to have this feeling.
I could never have.
It's so funny.
There's stuff that people could relate, and you really think about it. People that are like, you're either talented or you're funny to grow on social media. You're not like, you don't really have to be like, do you really think about like people that are big in social media that like proper and speaking like the correct words? Like, you don't know. You're either funny or you're like true. Or you're like super talented. Yeah. But you can't be like you can't feel that you're in college and having the teachers talking to you. But I think
people relate more with your authenticity.
Yes.
That's why.
Yeah.
And when you share your weaknesses, your mistakes, then they see, okay, he's not being fake. He's being genuine about his story. And they connect better.
That's why TikTok and all of that has to do with the phone. It feels more like real, yeah. Because if you like putting on the camera and edit it, and it feels like, oh, he cut all the bad stuff out and he only giving me like the perfect polished look to it.
Yes, people are tired of this perfect life on social media.
Yeah, people are tired.
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't connect anymore.
Perfect couple that never fight or anything. It doesn't exist.
It's not like you're gonna go and be like, oh, I fought with my wife today, it was crazy. Like, nah.
Yeah.
No, it is. You know,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people could relate. Like when you do that, you kind of realize. I went to this couple therapy thing in church one time, and I thought my wife was like the only one that argues about shoes and stuff. And I was like, oh man.
Then you found out there's
And
10
it's
of
like
them.
10 of them. Everybody was like, oh, so it's like a women thing. It's not like I wasn't. So sometimes what I'm saying with this, not to bash on girls or anything, I'm just saying that there's a lot of stuff that people go through that you think is like you or is only happens to you. And when you start speaking it out there, people are starting realizing like, oh, I'm going through the same thing, so it's not me. And then maybe they could go and be like, oh, Tico, like, remember what you had to do with this situation, like what you did to get out of it, and then you could give them an advice, and they could like learn from it and not make mistakes and open a door that could help them like get away.
Amazing conversation here. If you have one thing to say to barbers and hairstylists, people from our industry, one thing to say that will help them.
One advice.
One advice.
Don't stop learning. Just learn everything that you can, even if you have to go to YouTube and sit there for 2 hours and learn a new technique, but just don't stop learning. And don't stop investing on yourself, because sometimes there's a lot of free stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that you have to put money into it. And sometimes think about it. What, like for instance, you spend $400 on a pair of sneakers that you're gonna wear once, and you could spend $400 on a education that could level up your career and make twice the $400, and you could buy 2 pairs of sneakers.
Wow.
So I
What
rather
a great advice.
do
Yeah.
that.
What a great advice. And
Invest your money in things that you see the return that will bring you more money, more knowledge brings money. Even if you don't think about this way, knowledge will bring you money.
And it's a silly thing, maybe a silly thing to listen what I'm gonna say, but you are your best education. You know.
You are your best investment.
You see? That's ADHD. You are your best investment.
Yeah.
That's
That's
what I was
what
trying
you
to say.
meant.
You see, that's what I
That's
meant.
why he was
Yeah,
silent, like
that's
what
you
he's
gotta put up
talking
there.
about.
I'm like,
What this guy's
My best
saying?
You are your best
education is-
education. I was trying to understand.
But
I
it sounds
thought
silly.
about it because we were talking about education. So I try to figure it out. Like, okay, I get what he's saying. Like, you have to invest on your
I
education.
messed
so
up on that one, but it's
And you didn't even
I
notice.
didn't know. And that's serious, man. You are your best education. Everything that you invest.
Your best investment.
Yeah, you see?
Yeah. There you
Best
go, yeah.
investment.
Your best investment.
But thank you for the advice. Thank you for coming and
welcome, you're welcome.
to the Black Belt Barber
If
podcast.
people
was
want
fun.
to follow on social media, what is your social media?
It's SBB, ESBEBE _ everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter,
The same.
YouTube, everywhere is the same.
Go
Guys.
follow SBB.
Thank you.
Go follow Bebe. Bebe, thank you very much for coming to the
Thank
Black
you
Belt
for having
Barber
me.
podcast. And guys, don't forget to follow me, Tico Invictus, in my Instagram. And soon the episodes will be released.
Yes. Let's go.
Thank you for coming. I wish you success and prosperity, my friend.
Amen. Same to you.